Hey, Grace Point family. So glad you're with me again for the GPRead program. We've been plugging away here in the book of Leviticus, and we are into chapters 16 through 24 for this next week. Now, again, Leviticus can be one of those books that's hard to muscle through because there's a lot of detail that we don't necessarily understand in our culture. There's a lot of specifics that have to do with sacrifices and certain laws. I mean, in some ways, it's like reading a legal code like you would in law school. You're reading a lot of the details of certain ways that culture and society was expected to behave and why they were to behave that way. I encourage you, read through these sections carefully because there's a lot of wisdom here. You'll find a lot of the laws and principles of law that are in these commands are at the root or the basis of our Western way of doing law. And there's all kinds of principles of justice and equity toward other individuals that are included here. Now, mixed in with all that is some of the sacrificial law, some of the religious law that is part of what Israel was to do as this new nation of God's people. You're going to see a description here at the beginning of the Day of Atonement when the high priest would go in and make sacrifice for the sins of the people one day a year. And he had to do all these rituals to be cleansed and clean for that day. You're going to see laws about different kinds of activities they're allowed to do, different things they're not allowed to do. You're going to see laws about social and moral things like sexual relations and how to avoid things like child sacrifice, which was prevalent in the culture in which they lived. Punishments for sexual immorality. You're going to see God kind of wrapping it all up with statements like this, where he says, "You shall be holy because I am holy." And you see at the heart of that is God's desire that his people, whether it's the old covenant people or the new covenant people, represent him well in the world. That very statement is reiterated in 1 Peter chapter 5. Peter quotes it from this passage in Leviticus as an encouragement to believers in our day that we are to be holy because our God is holy. We represent him in this world. You're going to go on and you're going to see other principles about the acceptable kinds of offerings to give, about certain feasts that they're to celebrate and rejoice, remembering God's goodness and God's blessing in their lives as a nation. You're also going to see a thing about the Sabbath and the Sabbath year when the entire land is supposed to rest, no crops planted, anything. And God was to be trusted to provide for them in those years. And you'll see a year of Jubilee every 50 years when all debts are released. No one has to carry a debt longer than 50 years. Could you imagine that? All lands that have been sold are to be restored to their rightful owners, the ones given to them through God's apportionment of the land to the original 12 tribes of Israel. You're going to see all kinds of really cool laws in here that I think it would do us well to dig into and to seek the heart behind them. Now, continue reading Proverbs as well. You're going to be reading various chapters in Proverbs. You're going to see wisdom spoken about. You're going to see foolishness warned against. And you're going to see all kinds of just basic principles for how to live a godly life. Friends, keep reading. If you have questions, please send them my way. You can always send them to Carrie at gracepointnd.org. I would love to receive those. And God bless you, friends. I'll see you again soon. I love you.